Hello everyone and welcome to a spectacular game from round 10 of the second Piatigorsky Cup 1966. It is Robert James Fischer versus Samuel Reshevsky, sort of a battle of prodigies, even though Fischer said that in terms of prodigies, Samuel is a much bigger prodigy than Bobby ever was. He just sort of lacked the discipline to actually, maybe become world champion. But Samuel Reshevsky, like many others of the era, was not a real chess player, or he was not a chess player full time, even though he was one of the strongest players in the world for maybe 50 years. He was actually an accountant, and having defeated 7 world champions, we could say Samuel Reshevsky here is the deadliest accountant that ever lived. He defeated legendary champions all the way from Capablanca. He defeated Capablanca, he defeated Aljechin, he defeated Max Uwe, and then sort of modern ones for this era, Botvinnik, Smyslov, Fischer, and Mikhail Tal. And incredible player. In 1948, he came very close to becoming world champion. We all know after the death of Alexander Aljechin, who was holding the title at the time. He's the only world champion ever to have died holding the World Chess Championship title. A tournament was organized, and Samuel Reshevsky here won 3rd place, joined 3rd behind Botvinnik and Smyslov. Not much to say other than, Fischer is the one who's playing a legend here. And there's even a funny story regarding Fischer and Reshevsky. In 1957, they actually played a blindfold game. Samuel Reshevsky was holding a simultaneous exhibition, and they invited 10 up-and-coming promising young players. 14-year-old Bobby Fischer was one of them, and obviously we all know that 14-year-old Bobby Fischer was, just a monster back then. I mean, at the age of 13, he played his legendary Immortal game against Donald Byrne, and no one thought little of Bobby, but he, for some reason, I have no idea why, was invited to participate in the simultaneous exhibition, and of course he defeated Reshevsky, as Reshevsky was playing 10 other strong players as well. And if you analyze that game in detail with an engine, you will see that Reshevsky played a very strong game, even had some winning chances at some times, but it was a pretty weird simultaneous exhibition. He couldn't really contemplate on the positions for as much as he would like. He would have 10 seconds per move, which I think is something no grandmaster in their right mind would agree to today. They also had a very tough match that was cancelled in 1961. They played 11 games, and after those 11 games, the score was 5.5 to 5.5, and then they went into a disagreement with the sponsors, which is not something odd, especially when Bobby Fischer was involved. I actually don't know what the exact reason for the dispute was. I'm pretty sure I knew at one point in life, but yeah, the match got cancelled. And prior to that match, Reshevsky won the first game they ever played. Bobby retaliated once. Then they had those 5.5 to 5.5. So very equal rivalry between Robert James Fischer and Samuel Reshevsky. However, in this particular tournament, Bobby is now on a 3-game losing streak, and Samuel Reshevsky is undefeated. This is round 10. Out of the 9 rounds that were played, he got 8 draws and 1 win. He defeated Hein Dona, and here he has the black pieces against Bobby. So let's see what happens here. And I really like this game because if you just look at it, it might not seem like much, but when you really inspect what's going on behind the scenes, underneath the surface, you will see just how complicated this game is. Because I've seen comments online regarding Fischer's play in this game that it wasn't all that spectacular, that he missed a win or whatnot. But when I show you what the position actually was, I don't think you'll agree with that, or maybe you will. That's why we showed this game. So let's check it out. Sorry for a bit of a longer intro, but this is, you know, a contest of legends. So yeah, let's check it out. Fischer with white, as usual, opens with pawn to e4. You never have to think about Bobby Fischer's first move. It's always pawn to e4, you know, until that one special game. And of course, you guys know which game I'm talking about. So pawn to e4, we have pawn to e5 and knight to f3. We have knight to c6 by the world's deadliest accountant. Bishop to b5, the Ruy Lopez is on the board, and a6 Morphy's defense. We have bishop to a4 and knight to f6. Castles kingside and bishop to e7. So all been played before, nothing new here. Rook to e1 and pawn to b5. This is all pretty much book play even today. Bishop to b3 and now castles kingside. We have pawn to c3 and pawn to d6. Also, just a quick mention, there's a funny story going around that Bobby Fischer actually came disguised to that simultaneous blindfold exhibition and then just defeated Sammy, but that's not the case. That's sort of a meme that's going around. Alongside the famous meme, you know, that everyone's passing around, how 8-year-old Samuel Reshevsky, who was a chess prodigy, challenged 20 chess masters and lost every game. Of course, that is a joke. That never happened. He actually, in that famous photo of him holding a simultaneous exhibition as an 8-year-old boy, he won 19 games. Only one was a draw against a strong French master, and he lost 0 games at the age of 8. So that's what kind of a player Sammy was. So d6, we have pawn to h3, the Keres variation, and knight back to d7, shifting the knight over to c5, and you know, maybe having some ideas of king h8, f5, even though that's not really how these positions are played. We have pawn to d4, and now many moves can be considered here. Knight to a5 is all right, rook to e8 is all right, you could go bishop to f6, but in those days also knight to b6 was very popular. We have knight b to d2 and e captures on d4, c captures, and just pawn to d5 by Samuel, which is even at the time was known theory. We have bishop to c2 by Fischer, bishop to e6, and pawn to e5. We have queen to d7, developing the queen, connecting the rooks, and knight to b3, eyeing that c5 square, bishop to f5, offering a trade of bishops, and now bishop to g5, offering a trade of dark square bishops as well. And believe it or not, the position is still a known one. In 1959, Boris Spassky had it against none other than Mikhail Tal, and Tal played bishop to b4 here. Attacked Spassky's rook, and bishop to b4 is the top move recommended by the engine. But Spassky still was able to win that game. Spassky was just spectacular with white in the Ruy Lopez. But here Reshevsky goes rook f to e8, and it is now, as of move 16, that we have a completely new game. Okay, bishop captures on e7. Bobby eliminates the dark square bishop. Rook captures and rook to c1, saying that you will have problems now. And what are these problems? Well, if you make one more move, knight to b4 going after the bishop, knight to c5 with an attack on the queen, Sammy trades bishops, so it's a nice Zwischenzug as the queen is also hanging. Queen to d2, Fischer says, I'm not in a rush to capture your bishop, your queen is still hanging, and I'm just going to capture the knight on b4. Sammy goes back, and Fischer captures the knight on b4. Pawn to a5, and queen back to c3. We have bishop back to g6, getting the bishop out of harm's way, and knight to h4. Fischer goes after the bishop on g6, and here, knight to a4. Attacking Fischer's queen, putting pressure on the b2 pawn, and also offering a trade of knights. And Fischer could go queen to g3. It's definitely a great square, but he goes queen to b3, and sort of invites pawn to c6 to strengthen the b5 and the d5 pawns, but c6 will be a target. At c7, the pawn can easily be defended, but at c6 it will be somewhat more difficult to defend. So knight captures on c5 first, we have rook captures on c5 and pawn to c6. Bobby doubles up on the c file, goes after that c pawn, and Sammy defends with rook to e6. We have pawn to f4, Fischer tries to get f5 in, so pawn to f5 by Sammy. We have a4, Fischer strikes on the queen side, opens up the position, b captures on a4, and queen captures on a4. And now rook to b8, going after the b2 pawn. So it's a pretty nice position where you could, decide how to play this in various ways. Fischer decided to defend the b2 pawn. A nice tricky way to play would also be to actually trade pawns with queen captures and rook captures and go queen c7 to attack the c6 pawn. Probably Fischer thought that maybe Sammy would have drawing chances if he allows the queen into the game, because after queen to b8 you will have to trade here, and after rook captures and queen captures, rook to b1, you trade off the rooks. And okay, if you don't calculate deeply, you might think that this is not enough for a win, but it actually is. For example, rook captures, queen captures, king to h2, and now once you play a queen to e4, it seems like, okay, there's a perpetual, there's a draw here, there's nothing to discuss. Knight to f3, and white is just winning. But yeah, you have to see all of that, and there are many, of course, more sidelines that you have to calculate. But even after capturing the pawn, king h1, there is nothing to worry about here, and now the e-pawn is just winning. So Fischer went for a very, very similar idea. After rook to b8, he played queen to a3. Not a very similar idea. Of course, the idea is to trade pieces in a favorable way, and then play on the passed e6 pawn. We have queen to d8 by Sammy, putting pressure on the knight on h4, and knight captures on g6. We have h captures, rook captures, we have rook captures on c6, rook captures, and now queen to h4. So Sammy sacrificed the pawn for some pressure along this diagonal. Okay, what can Fischer play here? Well, the position is winning for Fischer, and this is the position that everyone is talking about, saying how Bobby, did not continue in the strongest possible way, but he actually did, if you think about it. So just for fun, what would you play here? Have at it while I give you a couple of seconds. So the move Bobby played here is rook captures on g6. And objectively, it might not be the strongest move, but it's, I believe, incredibly difficult to defend against practically. Now, what you would have to play here is queen to d6. It's a very tricky move. Seems like you're not doing all that much. Okay, you're attacking the rook, but the problem is, what does the rook do? A check doesn't really do all that much. You're just going to move the king. So the rook will have to move. Let's say rook d8. It's nicely defended. And now you play queen c7. You put pressure on the rook, and also you are now making room for the passed e-pawn. But really, you're just going to capture that a5 pawn. So whatever you play here, let's say king h7, you're going to capture on a5. And now once the king moves, you're going to capture on a5, and after rook d7, so it no longer remains a target, you will simply move the queen back. You will have everything defended here, the f4 pawn, the d4 pawn, the b pawn. Now you push the b pawn and win the game, then a little bit of e pawn. And that's pretty much it, not allowing your opponent any counter chances. So queen to d6 is the strongest and by far the most convincing way to win. Bobby played rook captures on g6, and if you found this, you might also be, subject to some scrutiny online, but the move is also winning. Not in the way Fischer continued, but he had the correct idea. But I will also show that, because defending against this is a very, very inhuman feat, as you'll see. So, okay, king h7, attacking the rook, and we have rook to g5. Now, what is the move that can be played here? One move draws the game, all the other moves lose the game. Sammy played rook to b4, which is not enough to hold the position. The move that holds is actually queen captures on f4, but it seems like such an ill-considered pawn grab, because after queen to e7, how do you defend? Well, I'll show you. Rook to g8, okay, you defend the pawn, and now pawn to e6. Where is the defense? The defense is I will not show you. Let's first play around a little bit with the position. Let's say go queen to c1 with check. What's the problem? Well, after queen to c1 check, you will move the king, and after queen to f4 with check, you will play rook to g3. And now you might be thinking, okay, let's just capture the pawn. Queen f7 threatens mate in 1, and also if you defend that, the passed pawn marches forward. So let's say queen f6, but now comes queen captures, and you can simply trade. It's that simple. G captures, rook captures, king captures, and now the two passed pawns cannot be captured. If you play d4, the king easily goes into the square of the pawn, pawn, so that's not really helping you. And if you go after the pawn with king to f8, then the h-pawn marches forward, and again you cannot capture. If you capture, the black king can no longer reach this pawn. So what you would have to do in this position after pawn to e6 is find king to h6. So in order to play queen captures on f4, you have to find king to h6 here. It is the only move. And now after, let's say, pawn to h4, trying to trick black into capturing so you can win the queen, that's not, you know, that's not a problem. You will do that. Queen captures on h4, rook to g6 check, even king h5. And now, okay, it seems like surely there's something for white. You're not going to just trade queens. Well, white will play queen to f7, threaten all sorts of nasty discoveries. But now the problem is black actually does have a perpetual queen e1, king h2, queen to h4, king g1, queen to e1 check, and so on and so on. It will be a threefold, and it will be a draw. So that is what was possible. However, like I said, I have no idea what the situation on the clocks was, but I imagine it wasn't all that impressive, as this is move 35. Move 40 has to be reached to gain additional time, so I imagine they were already in time trouble. Maybe one of them, if not both. So Sammy played rook to b4, and now Fischer's position is winning. Fischer played queen to f3, defended the f4 pawn, and he's saying, all right, you can capture the d4 pawn. I'm going to play rook h5 check and win your queen. So Sammy plays king to h6, he finds it, and now g3 by Fischer, forcing queen captures on h3. Queen captures on h3 is played, and now Fischer plays queen captures on d5, and he was in this position on move 38 that Samuel Reshevsky resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So Fischer ends his losing streak after 3 lost games. Finally, he defeats Reshevsky, who was undefeated the entire tournament. Like I said, 8 draws, a win against Haindona, and now first loss in the tournament at Bobby Fischer, who seems to be finding his footing after a tough first half of the tournament. And here you resign because, well, what do you play? This is defended. The queen really has no way of entering the game. And if you play captures in order to threaten some checkmating stuff, then it is the black king who gets checkmated. You will give a check, doesn't really matter where. One check, king h7, queen to g6 check, king wherever, and then queen captures on g7 will be checkmate. So you never really needed the e6 pawn, but it's important that it was always there. You know, if black defended against more concrete threats, then you would move the queen, push the pawn, and win the game that way. But yeah, this is the position that everyone is discussing online, or rather this one move prior to that, where Fischer missed queen to d6 and rook captures on g6 was discussed as a okay, Fischer completely out of form, even playing the 4th game in a row badly or poorly, and it was pure luck that he defeated Reshevsky here. But okay, I mean, if you saw all of that, if you calculated all of that, and even this is winning for Fischer. But okay, now after rook to g5, if you find that queen captures on f4 and king h6, okay, maybe, maybe I'm just saying, maybe you're not playing against a human, or not just against a human. So yeah, very nicely played by both of them, but it is Bobby Fischer who takes this one and takes down his old rival Samuel Reshevsky. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. For those of you who are maybe just joining us, I do have a playlist on this tournament. I have a playlist on pretty much everything. I do have like 1,000 playlists, and these are the final standings of this event. Maybe you guys are just joining us. So Spassky, of course, won first place, clear first with 11.5 out of 18. Fischer second with 11 out of 18. Bent Larsen 10 out of 18. And then Unzika and Portish with 9.5, and Samuel Reshevsky here tied with former world champion Tigran Petrosyan, Miguel Najdorf on 8, 6.5 for Borislav Ivkov, and Haindona 6 out of 18. So yeah, like I said, incredible game by both of them, but it is Bobby who takes this one. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and hope that this has improved your Sunday at least a little bit. I would like to wish a very happy birthday to Edic3, and I would like to thank David Gasparian, Ferald Gerald, Mike Manson, and Rohaho Hochstetla for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. Yes, I know today is the start of the US Chess Championship, but all of the games were a draw. I checked them out, so I decided to continue the second Piatigorsky Cup mini saga. See you soon.